Thank you, and it's fantastic to see 900 people here tonight. It was many years ago that I had the good fortune of spending some time with a great football man by the name of Jim Cardwell. This will be a familiar name to some of the people in the room, but it'll also be perhaps lost a little bit in time, but he had a pervasive influence on our club. Jim Cardwell was the secretary of the Melbourne Football Club in an era where the club won 6 premierships in 10 years, and it was an era like no other. When an old-time writer like Alf Brown or Percy Beames referred to Secretary Jim, it was normally prefaced with the term doyen, which is an old-fashioned word that simply meant that he was the best and he was the most respected. Jim assumed the moniker of the Prince of Secretaries from another great Melbourne man, a fellow by the name of Percy Page. I spoke of him last year. But to the players of that era, he was simply known as the Mirror. But when he was asked a question, he would normally answer it, "I will look into it." The Secretary's fame in those days was based on his capacity to identify and attract talent. They were the recruiters, and Jim was the mightiest. And the club's success at that time was due in no small part to Jim's keen eye, his network of contacts, and a very smooth tongue. These were the glory days of recruiting thousands of miles along dusty roads in the E.J. Holden, all in the hope of finding the next Jack Mueller. These travels are known as the Scone Run, as country folk entertain their city guests, welcoming them into their homes, flattered by the interest of their sons. Great recruiters are great storytellers. They are hope salesmen with a form for. Jim would paint the pictures, the word pictures, the green grass of the MCG, the ground that we then had to ourselves, the roar of the crowd, the prestige of the MCC, and the promise of an MCC membership to be had if your lad managed to play 100 games. If that didn't work, there was a Gladstone bag beside Jim's feet, which was full of £1 notes, which he would throw in the air and demand that the young fella sign before the last one hit the ground. There is a certain inevitability about the conversations with any person from our club of that great era, which regardless of where it started would finish with a reference to Norm Smith. But this conversation with Jim wasn't about Norm's greatness, it was about his vulnerability and how he confronted it, a place we do not naturally associate with a man of Norm's stature. The year was way back in 1954, and it was Norm's 6th as coach. He had an outstanding playing career with the Demons. He coached Fitzroy for 3 years in his first go at it, and he was in his 3rd year of coach of Melbourne. Another fact, perhaps lost in time, is that Norm was yet to coach a team into the finals. Few coaches in days gone by, or days present, can afford to go 6 years without coaching a team to the finals. And the year before, the Demons, the team he coached, had only won 3 games and finished second last. And they'd lost 2 of the first 3 of that year. Jim Cardwell spoke of this time, not of the turnaround of it saw the team in that year win 5 of the last 6 and sneak into the finals and actually make the grand final to be beaten by Footscray, who won their first and only premiership, but of the moments together when Norm's career as a coach seemed lost. He didn't speak of the words they shared, but of the silences, often long, as the 2 men in a small office in the bowels of the MCG felt the weight of this beautiful, proud club bearing on them. He would look at Norm with his head in his hands. The game was judging them, as only it can, even in that time, and pressure was mounting. And without a word, Norm would head down to the change rooms to coach his young charges. He found it within himself, be it an overwhelming sense of responsibility, which Jim described as pure courage, for at that time, and for good reason, Norm doubted both his future and his ability. The club is many things, and like Norm, what is often underestimated is its courage. For Melbourne, it's never been as easy as it seems. Somehow, at its very core is lost in its cliche, and at its heart is its courage. The awards which the young, talented men in this room tonight will take home are in honour of former teammates of Norm Smith, who lost their lives in war. All 4 of them played with Norm in the 1940 Premiership team, and they are Harold Ball, who played 33 games and kicked 33 goals from Merbeen, the place of Hassaman and Colin Sylvia for our best first-year player. Ron Barassi Sr., who was killed in Tobruk in 1941, the first VFL player to lose his life. Sid Anderson, and when you look at the banners, Sid played basically 50-odd games for 3 premierships and was killed in Papua New Guinea. His plane crashing, survived the plane crash, but was shot as he made his way up the beach. And the best and fairest award, of course, is the Keith Louis Truscott Award for a champion fighter pilot and a champion person. There are 1,283 players who have played footy for Melbourne who have represented the club, and 21 have been lost in war. And the little flame which is within the emblem is representative of those people. And we are determined that the names of our awards also remain timeless. The people they were, not merely the names on the trophies. And perhaps Norm's silences in Jim Cardwell's office were the reflections on his mates he lost, the son of one who he's now coaching, and that's Ron Barassi, and it's fantastic to have you here tonight, Ron. How could he possibly let down those people by indulging himself in his own feeling of inadequacy? Their courage may well have been his inspiration. And it did turn around. History would show that the team did go on and win 6 of the next 10 premierships. It was a glorious era. He would struggle to stand before you with the disappointment of where it was at, the same way as from time to time we stand before you now with that same disappointment. But Melbourne will have its day. This year our club lost another young man of courage, Shaun White. A night like this should not go without reflecting on Shaun, what a great man he was and what a great person he was for our club. In 1987, a memorable year for our club, Shaun stood before you to receive the Ron Barassi Senior Trophy. And this is the jumper that he wore in that year, which was proudly reunited after Shaun's passing as a gift from Anthony Bergen, and for that we're just so thankful. Shaun was so proud of what he achieved and what it meant to play for Melbourne. The timelessness of our club is a reflection on our courage, often tested, and our vulnerabilities often exposed as they have been this year. But let's just take a moment as we turn to the videos to reflect on a remarkable athlete and a remarkable person, a man of courage, Shaun White. Thank you very much.